Hello, everyone. So today I have another freshman group panel, and ironically, I ended up getting a bunch of kids from USC, not intentional, but this will be pretty much a USC freshman group panel. Today with me, I have Jordan Wang, Oscar Peng, and Jeffrey Lee. So do you mind if I have all of you guys introduce yourself? Obviously, your name. Obviously, you guys are all going to be freshmen at USC, but what your major is, if you have a pre-professional track, such as, pre-med, pre-dent, or maybe some form of grad school, and anything you want to let, the audience know about you.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Jordan Wang. I'm from Arcadia, California, and I entered USC as a global health major with Keck, but this incoming fall I plan to change to human biology and dorms life. I do have a pre-med emphasis, and I do plan to pursue medicine as a career in the future.
Awesome. And Oscar?
Hi, my name is Oscar. I also come from Arcadia, California. Besides that, I came to USC as a biological sciences major, but I recently switched over to Keck Medicine, and I'm pursuing the health promotion, disease prevention program. Besides that, my emphasis is in pre-dental, and I'm hoping to become a dentist in the future.
Right. Awesome. And then Jeffrey?
Hi everyone. So my name is Jeffrey. We're all from Arcadia, but I applied to USC Annenberg as a communications student, and unlike the other two, I intend to stay as a communications student. I'm also an aspiring magician. Oh shoot, I flashed. I'm also an aspiring magician. Please, that was not a great show, but please hire me. I don't care if it's for your kid's birthday party or anything. I need the money. Thank you.
That's good. I like how you roasted both the pre-med and the pre-dent kid and into the subtle advertisement. But that's what we like to see. All right, awesome. So anyway, so obviously you guys are all attending USC. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I want to talk about specifically the majors you guys are going in. And then, for Jordan and Oscar, I know you guys also plan on switching to a different major that you guys have mentioned. So you can obviously mention why you plan on switching to it. But yeah, I guess just first and foremost, what made you choose the major or even like the pre-professional track that you guys intend on pursuing?
Well, for me at first, when I applied for global health at Keck, I felt that I would be able to network better at Keck, because of course when people think of USC, they think of the strong networking and the multiple opportunities that are available to them. So I thought, if I want to pursue medicine in the future, why not start getting my roots in at Keck to begin with? But then I realized that it was more important for me to learn more about the sciences of medicine rather than the kind of like overall global scheme, as you would, in global health. So that's exactly why I decided to change to human bio, which would have that same emphasis instead of staying with global health. And I realized that just because I'm not in Keck doesn't mean that I wouldn't be able to get more resources or networking. So I figured that as long as I try my hardest to do internships, volunteer, and all that different stuff at dorms life, I'll be getting the same networking experience definitely.
Right. Awesome. And Oscar?
So originally I was a biological sciences major, and for me, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something in the sciences because I really wanted something to help support my hopefully my entry to dental school. I mean, you could use any major to try to get into dental school. For me, I wanted to have a major that could fulfill a lot of the core classes you need or requirements for dental school. So originally I went for biological sciences because it seems like a very baseline, just overall, like a lot of pre-meds, pre-dents are biological sciences major in my experience. But then I decided to switch over to health promotion, disease prevention, mainly because it basically entailed a biology major and taking basic intro science classes and also a little bit of psych, but then also adding on some health promotion specific classes that help students gather basic knowledge about how that kind of science can be applied in our world today, basically.
All right. Yeah, it's awesome. And then finally, Jeffrey, obviously, our one kid who's not a STEM major. If you can go ahead and explain, your decision for communications.
Right. So throughout the majority of high school, I'm sure like many of you, I had no idea what my path would be. And coming up to college, I honestly didn't really know what to pick either. It really came down to two things. One is that sort of like a bragging point here, but USC Annenberg is like rated one of like the top communication schools in the world. And not only that, but there was one activity that I did in high school that I was fortunate enough to be a part of, which is called the Digital Communications Internship. And in that internship program, I was able to help start a podcast for my school. And starting a podcast had to be one of the most influential, best parts of my high school career, because not only was I able to create a team and keep putting out content that we enjoyed making, but we were able to get a sense that we were helping people, helping students and parents become closer to the district. And I really enjoyed doing stuff like that. And my mom, who actually she majored in communications, warned me throughout high school, don't major in communications, don't major in communications. You'll earn way more money if you go do something in software engineering or programming or something. But obviously I didn't listen. And I did take a couple programming classes, but they just weren't.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome. No, it's great to hear. I mean, obviously, each of you guys have like, you know, there's general standards of, for example, like Jordan and Oscar, like, oh, idea of being pre-med and stuff, it's important to have those general major courses. But yeah, at the same time, there's obviously like different changes in interest. You know, you start off with one major, but you don't always have to stick with the same one. And obviously for Jeffrey, it's like, oh, that expectation, you go into software engineering. You know, I know computer science and coding, programming is a huge thing that's going out there. But obviously I think pursuing something that you're passionate about will kind of fall suit with, you know, what kind of career path you want or the ease of doing certain things. So I have no worries for all you guys. Excited to see how you guys are going to do at USC. So yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and talk about USC in specific. And I know some of you guys already touched up on some of the aspects that USC has specifically towards your major or what you guys want to do. But I guess for the most part, why did you guys end up choosing USC over maybe the other college options that you might have had?
So besides the networking, another thing that people also immediately notice about USC is that it is a private school. So, and of course, even though you're paying a little bit more, there are many, many perks that comes with being a private school. So like, for example, with my experiences in the UC system versus USC, whenever I would reach out to communicate for my major, or if I ever wanted more information or literally anything that in regards to communication with the university, it was instant. It was like I'd wait one day at most before I get my responses. And so that was versus the UC system where I had to wait like maybe up to like a week. And I mean, just for reference, I'm still on the UCLA wait list, and it's what, July 18th already. So I mean, I think that just goes to show a little bit. But anyways, no hate against UCLA. And also
all hate on UCLA.
in terms of the more aspect educational, I feel that the amount of resources that are available at USC are also very, very appealing. Like, for example, like there's the writing workshop. There's so many different student resources that are there to help you and to make sure that you succeed. And from all of the alumni that I've spoken to, in terms of like the professors, they all say the same thing, in that you get what you put into your classes. So if you're trying your hardest, then the professor will also try their hardest to help you succeed. And I really do like that idea where no student is left behind, and then as we can all come together and like grow and move on together.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've honestly, before I lose my train of thought, I definitely agree with a lot of things you mentioned, especially that writing resource. I wasn't the best writer in the world, so during my writing class, I was able to utilize that writing center, and it actually helped a lot. Obviously, you know, with COVID, you can't really visit the writing center, but I know they're still doing like online stuff. So I think it really helps to have those resources that are really personalized per student too. And like you mentioned, there really is no student left behind. There's always something for everyone at USC.
Oh, sorry, I had one more thing to add actually as well. Like during my orientation experience, I've had at least like 3 different advisors and like at least 5 different like orientation advisors, which are students 1 year above that are kind of giving me their insight. And I've spoken to all of them. versus like some of my friends at other universities where they've only had only been able to speak to one or two advisors like max. So USC has been really this just proves again that USC has been really beneficial and like trying to cater to like our needs as a student and trying to help us kind of make this transition a lot more smoother.
Yeah, it's awesome. Great to hear. All right, perfect. And then I guess Oscar, yeah, if you want to explain, why you chose USC.
Yeah, I think I also want to expand on what Jordan pointed out earlier about how USC is really trying to reach out to us, right? Or not, or it's really trying to like better our experience right now despite COVID conditions. For example, like we register our classes in like June, early July. Starting like June 11th or something like that. And then like for me, like I didn't expect to be registering for my classes that early. But then I was asking my other friends if they registered, and they were like, "What? You guys already registering for classes? It's only like June, right?" It's like crazy. But I just feel like USC kind of does that to make sure that students get to prepare early on to see what classes they're taking, to see for any potential like material they may cover. Besides that, in my experience with the advising, I feel like the advising has been very supportive. From when transitioning from my two majors, I think the transition was actually very smooth. The original lady advisor that I had helped make sure that I was in contact with the Keck medicine advisor for HPDP, and from there I was with my Keck medicine advisor, and I was asking a lot of like annoying questions. Like I was asking him like, "Oh, could you adjust my schedule like this way, that way? Could I take this as third year, not fourth year?" Or like like a lot of like specific stuff to make sure that my schedule wouldn't be delayed. And he actually managed to make a schedule for me that I really like. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think the great thing about USC is like having the advisors, and like Jordan mentioned earlier, it's a private school, so we're not as large as a public school system. So a lot of times you get really that individualized attention from your advisors, and multiple advisors as well too. Especially when you have like a really strong like pre-health advisement that is like kind of an additional advisor to what you have. So yeah, it's great. I guess Jeffrey, your turn now. Obviously, the kid who decided to wear blue on a USC call. But Jeffrey, so obviously, why did you choose on USC?
So I'd like to rephrase what Jordan said earlier about paying a little more than a public school. I mean, taken at face value without any financial aid, USC can cost 2 times as much as a public school, and I think that almost three. So in some cases, so if you are applying to USC and you aren't going to, and like you don't qualify for financial aid, that should definitely be a really big concern for you. So I chose USC because I knew I was going to be applying for communications. I knew I wanted to do something with media because of, well, at least I knew that's what I liked, and that's the generation I want. That's the direction I wanted to go to, thanks to the internship program I did at my school. So literally, I searched up best communications or media colleges, and USC was up there. So when it came to a decision, Jordan, I'm also still on the UCLA waitlist, and I still haven't heard anything. But yeah, I was stuck between USC and Berkeley, and as you know, Berkeley's like half like the tuition of USC. But the thing is that I reached out to USC. I was like, because I heard that Berkeley, no shade Berkeley, but I heard that like Berkeley is super academically strenuous, like maybe even more strenuous than, and like the pressure is even higher than our own high school. So I emailed them and I was like, like going to USC has always been a dream of mine. Like, please, is there any scholarship that I can apply for or anything like that? And so I got really lucky in that regard, in that like, because I was able to reach out, and this was purely by chance, and I'm not sure if this would have happened at any other school, but it just happened to be at USC where they reached out. They were like, oh, okay, like we just have this scholarship open, so we're going to interview you for it. And then I managed to get it. And it was just barely enough to convince my parents that, okay, we can afford USC. And it brought it down to be almost comparable to what Berkeley's tuition was. So yeah, and there's probably, I've heard that there's also a good amount of other scholarship that you can apply for when you are a student at USC, which I haven't seen from many other colleges. So that was also a big factor in me deciding to to go with USC.
Yeah, I actually wanted to add on to that point. For me, originally USC was going to cost them a lot. USC is USC, and it's usually going to maybe cost a bit more. But then, for me, I really wanted to go to USC just because of how spirited it seems like and stuff like that. And so, basically what I did was I basically appealed for financial aid. And if you appeal for financial aid, and usually they will actually help you and give you a little bit more money basically to help you basically compensate for your needs basically. And so for me, I basically wrote them like what my financial situation was right now, and that if they could lower the cost. And then from there, they said, okay, well, we need like this document, that document. So basically, you need to send in a lot of documents. But like after you do all of that, that takes like an hour, honestly. Like sometimes it takes people like 3 hours, but I thought it was pretty easy because like my parents had a lot of documents on hand. It was just some I had to wait for. But then basically, yeah, from there I was able to get a lot more money from USC. And then I think I just don't want people to be discouraged from the fact of for applying to USC, because like I feel like if you don't apply, I feel like you're missing out on a huge opportunity here, because you could still go to the school and still have a payable tuition.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely agree with like, especially the last point, Jeffrey and Oscar, you guys were making. Tuition is no big, it's no joke. For applying to colleges or just even deciding what school you attend to. I think tuition can actually, like Jeffrey mentioned, it's like the deciding factor of which school you go into. I definitely agree with the fact, Jeffrey, like you mentioned, there's a lot of scholarships once you become as a student that you can actually qualify for. That's definitely true. For example, if you want to do research, so I would say especially applicable to Jordan and Oscar, if you want to do research, they have certain research grants that you can apply for and get those scholarship money for. There's also other students that like, if you're like this major or like you have this minor or something like that, you can apply for a certain scholarship, or even just purely based off of your GPA. If you have a certain GPA, USC will actually let you take up to, I believe, like 3 more units for free in addition to what you already have to help complete like your double major and or like a minor. So that's definitely something that I actually have as well too, that I plan on using in the future. So I think, obviously with tuition, it's a big factor, but USC is really great in terms of it. It is expensive, and don't get me wrong, not everyone is as lucky with financial aid, even if you may or may not appeal. And I know there's a lot of like things going around with COVID, like the tuition price did increase. That's it's like nothing that's hidden from the public, but things are changing right now. But I would say that, like, I think Oscar made a good point. Don't let it discourage you from applying, because it still really is a great option to look into. And yeah, I really like how you guys touched up on a lot of great diverse things. So it's really great to hear. All right, so now I want to take a step back, and I want to head about a year ago to your senior year of high school. Fun times. You guys had it cut short by COVID and whatnot. Honestly, I don't know what it would feel like, but I guess first and foremost, obviously, congrats to all 3 of you guys for graduating high school. It's 4 years of showing your hard work, and I know it didn't end the way you wanted, but I'm pretty sure you guys will continue to make great things from here. I guess talking about the college application process, just for sake of time, just being able to get as much information from you guys. I just want to hear how did you overall feel about the college application process? So in terms of researching, doing the essays, managing school or whatnot, if you guys can just touch up on how your specific story went like. So yeah, Jordan, if you could start us off.
Yeah. So on the aspect of college essays, for me, I feel like today essays are very heavily geared towards you need you need to have some kind of challenge or some kind of shortcoming. And for me, growing up in Arcadia, California, which is pretty privileged in itself, we have a lot of resources available. And luckily, I was able to born into a middle class family, so it's not like funds were always an issue. But I kind of struggled in what I should write about. So I felt like my essays kind of fell short in what they could have been. And of course, that added on top of me not being an extra great writer, and the writing resources to help me improve my writing weren't always there. But that's my take on the essays, and that I could have done a little bit better, and I could have had a little bit more guidance as to how I should write it. But and the overall college application process, I kind of was unsure at first where I should apply to, or if the places I was applying to were right, because I felt that what I was exposed to were all the typical name universities. Like I felt like I might have missed out on some of these smaller, lesser known universities that might have been maybe more of a fit for me, but I don't know now. It usually what comes to mind is like the UC system, USC, and then maybe some local like Claremont colleges if you're ambitious. But like many colleges on the East Coast at least, or maybe even in the Midwest, I wasn't exposed to at all as to what would be good for me. And I felt like, you know, maybe that could have just been felt short on my end with, I didn't do enough research, but there definitely wasn't anyone there to tell me like this college out of nowhere, in the middle of nowhere is good for you, or this and this and this. And there was, actually, I think that's it for me for now.
All right, sounds good. And then Oscar, if you want to explain your story.
For my experience with the college application process, I personally wish that I could have been looking into colleges earlier. Like Jordan said, like there's so many colleges out there that could be like great fits for you, but then you just don't know until you start perhaps researching or maybe visiting a school. And for me, I wish I could have done that more because, well, originally my parents wanted me to go to a specific school for sure, and so then basically they didn't care about other options. So I was basically like left in the dust of what school should I go to, because like I didn't really want to go to that school personally. I wasn't really interested in that program, but then basically I had to start researching on my own. But then by the time I was doing that, I was already trying to start my essays and stuff. And so then I would say definitely start researching early. Besides that, writing the actual applications, I would say making sure to maybe showcase a little bit more personality in those essays, because like these like reviewers, like they look at all these different essays, they need something basically to stand out to them. And for me, I think my essays, like they were pretty good, but then they seem to restate a lot of the extracurricular activities I already had. So I would say write something a bit like, you can talk about your extracurriculars, but write in a way that helps you showcase your personality. Maybe include other stories that have nothing to do with your extracurriculars to really bring out your personality.
Yeah, awesome. And then I guess, yeah, Jeffrey, if you want to talk about, you know, your experience with it.
Yeah. Also expanding on Jordan's point about like missing out on some colleges that might have been a better fit. I think so as well. I think I missed out on some East Coast schools I could have easily gotten to, like Harvard or Yale. Other than that, I'm kidding. So I think what Oscar said about starting earlier is definitely key. I tried and I completely failed, but I think the best advice that I've heard that would have worked, like helped the best, would have been if you were to be able to get a draft of every single college essay of every single college that you intend to apply to, if you can get a draft before the end of summer. This is like probably nearly impossible, but if you can do it, you are set for senior year, because you know your senior year you're going to get like, you're still going to have a bunch of like AP classes probably and a bunch of extracurriculars going on, but like, and like seniors normally have to juggle all that as well as their college essays, which makes senior year so tough. But if you're able to get a draft so early on, not only does that lessen the stress, but then that means that when you go back and you revise them, then it's naturally going to be better because you're going to be spending more time on it. Also on college essays, you want to get your friends to read over it, because once you've read over the essay so many times, you sort of lose all feeling of it in your head. It's like you're reading it, but it just doesn't make sense to you anymore. The words just don't mean anything. And sometimes it can just be those little things, just a couple of words that like change the entire meaning that you didn't understand because you were reading it so many times that it just slipped by you, that your friends might catch, your friends or family might catch. So make sure you get a buddy to help you read your essays. And I think the last thing is that it's just a little thing that I didn't know until it was like pretty late on, but like just like a random tip, fact or whatever, the letter of recommendation that your teacher writes for your Common App applies to every single college. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I agree. All of you guys have like really great advice. I think, you know, one thing is interesting is you guys mentioned, you know, starting early, being able to, like, I like Jeffrey, how you mentioned if you could get a draft of every essay before school even starts, you'd be pretty much set. And I definitely agree with that. Like if I had every essay done, I would be perfectly fine. Like I was in like band and speech and debate, and still doing school. Jordan, obviously, I know you can relate to that, being in band, having practice late night practices and whatnot. It takes up a lot of your time. What's funny is that I had this other student that I interviewed, also an Arcadia graduate, and she said, she gave this really great analogy where she said that she doesn't believe that your college application process starts in your senior year. In fact, it's something that she believes starts since your freshman year. And that senior year, the actual writing the application is like your home stretch. That's the final lap. So I thought that was a really interesting analogy, especially when we talk about starting things early. Like, yeah, some kids could literally start researching colleges they're interested in if they have that interest starting like, their sophomore and junior year. Obviously, not every kid is going to be like, oh, yeah, I know I want to study this or this. So that maybe not be so applicable. But I think it's definitely something to keep in mind. Those essays pile up after a while. And yeah, definitely have people read those essays because, once you read your essay over and over, you just like, at least for me, I felt like every single time I reread it, the essay just got worse and worse and worse because I didn't like the way it was written. And yeah, I can see all you guys nodding your head. I see you all agree. But yeah, have other people read it because they're going to have great insights. And if your friends are saying like, oh, I like how this really talks about this, this, and this, and that's what you were intending to say, then you know that you've done a good job on your essay. So I think that's definitely a good point to mention. Now,
I actually have another thing to add on. And the thing I was going to mention earlier is that the college visits and campus visits are actually very important. I remember visiting like 3 or 4 different campuses with 3 or 4 different tours, and out of all of them, USC stood out the most. Like I don't know if it was because I visited it more into the school year. Maybe it looked more lively, but I remember one of the I forgot his name, but it was one of the guys introducing USC as a school and kind of introducing us before the tour started at USC, and he was so eloquent and he spoke so well. Like he his job was to hook in new students. He already got me. Like everything about it was just so, I don't know, it just felt right. So, and you can like the other 3 said, I mean, it's very, very important to do your research, but the research online will only get you so far. And it's very important to get to the actual college and get a feel for it and see if you actually vibe with it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think visiting the college campuses, like, a lot of students, they don't actually visit the campuses that they apply or even decide on attending. Like the first time they step on campus, they're already starting school. So I think it's important to visit colleges. And obviously I know for some students watching it, they might not have the resources or the capabilities to do so. And in that case, I guess what you could do is, like we have these videos, obviously people talking about their experiences, but you could definitely go on YouTube. You can find there's like, they have virtual tours. They have like students that like will just blog on the campus, a lot of, famous college people and whatnot. But yeah, I would say definitely look into those. See if you can visit the college, even if it's just local. Yeah, definitely do that. You get a whole new perspective. I mean, I would agree with Jordan on that one, where when I first came in for a USC tour visit, it was actually my junior year of high school. So when I was doing it, I came over, and yeah, I was just so intrigued. In fact, this one microbiology professor started giving a lecture in the middle of the entire thing. So I was like, oh, okay, he's starting already. So yeah, definitely if you can, visit the campuses. But if not, just see what you can find online. But I agree with Jordan. There's only so much that online can take you. But yeah.
May I add one more thing?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So for online research, like early on in the college admission, in the college application process, I found myself spending way too much time looking on the website and trying to find like a certain piece of information hidden on the website that would differentiate myself from any other candidates. And I find that in most cases, that's just wasting your time, and that's just not worth it. Like you might find something, but I feel like in the end, the most important part is just getting a first draft down. And also, I have something that I wanted to ask you guys because I never really talked about it with anyone else. Did you, like, when you guys were applying to all those different colleges, did you guys kind of have like a certain structure that you used for every Y college that you kind of just used to shotgun through? Or was it just me? And if it was just me and it's coming out right now, that'd be kind of bad.
Is it like, do you mean like a certain way that I structured the essays for every single school?
For every single, yeah, why this school?
Oh, a general structure?
Yeah.
I'll let Jordan ask you think about this for a bit because I actually have an answer for this one. For me, like, yeah, there's a lot of those schools, like for example, I think it was like, NYU and Northwestern I applied to. It was like, why this school or why that school? When it came down to those, like, why this, why that, I'm not going to lie, I kind of had a very similar structure. Like, yeah, obviously I talked about different aspects of the school that I researched and I really liked. So, like, for example, it would be like, for Northwestern, they had an integrated science program, so I would talk about that. NYU, I would talk about certain research stuff. But for the most part, I would say that, yeah, it was a structure. It was like some introduction, then ding, bing, bing, and then the conclusion. I would say, though, for like the other essays I had, like obviously like the personal statement, that one should not follow that kind of structure. But like the other supplements, like it'll be like, oh, describe your first or second choice major, or oh, I can't think of it. It's like, oh, like I don't know. There's some questions that they would just ask you something completely different. Those I would actually create a really unique structure or a different way to emphasize it, because I feel like those, why this school, or why are you going into this major, or what about this program interests you, it is very standard, because at that point what you're talking about is not really kind of your creative outlet per se. Like you're talking about what the school can provide and how you as a student, your personality and your work ethic can relate to that, and how you can prove to, like, you know, USC or some other school that you will succeed there. So to some extent, yes, I would say there was a general structure, some sort of format to follow. But I would say if you had more creative liberty in a question, for example, like the personal statement or like the UC personal insights, where you didn't necessarily have to talk about something that the school offers, those I felt like my essays had a lot more of a unique, like, you know, structure in a way that it was written out. So yeah, at least that's my take on it. Jordan, Oscar, I guess if you had something for it.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, unlike you, I did not have the same creativity in terms of my writing to make something unique all the time. And while I did put a lot of effort into making my main ones, like you said, the Common App, the main one, like unique, I did actually end up having to like kind of copy paste some essays because I mean, for me, it was really, really, really difficult to like think of something new each time, because my life was pretty simple, to be honest. I had like four or five big extracurriculars and just school, like, to be honest. So, I mean, if I ended up writing about the same things over and over again, and I mean, if one is already working for me and the colleges won't be able to see that, then I might as well just reuse it. But don't worry, I used the unique ones for the USC ones. but yeah, so it was just really hard for me to manage all the different topics. And actually, now that I think back on it, some of them are very similar, and it can and one essay can apply to multiple.
Yeah. And Oscar, if you had anything to touch up on it?
Yeah, I think for me, I knew what I wanted to say for my supplements about or I knew what I wanted to say in my Common App. Looking back at it now, I wish I could have showcased a little bit more about my personality instead of talking so much about like search, or not like talk about extracurriculars, but like expanding more on the personality behind those extracurriculars in my Common App. Besides that, my supplements highlighted certain aspects about myself. I had like a few supplements that I knew I wanted to like use for a lot of the colleges I was applying to, because like I feel like those supplements could answer a lot of questions about me, about how I was raised, about how what obstacle I overcame or something like that, to basically be the person I am today. And when it comes down to it, it just depends on how you format it, basically, to make sure you actually answer the question the college is asking for. Because like two different colleges could be asking the same question. It's just the way that they are asking it. You know, it's like you could have the same kind of like answer to it, but it's like it depends on how you want to answer it.
Yeah, perfect. And then I guess, Jeffrey, did you have anything to kind of conclude off of that? I think that was kind of answering your question to some extent.
Yeah. I think I said it earlier, but yeah, I sort of like Jordan said, I really struggled with trying to come up with like brand new like storylines or like brand new essay topics each time. So sometimes it was similar, and then I would just like try to use what I could find on like the school websites or from my visits there to sort of supplement the rest of the essays.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, no, I definitely think, you know, looking back at it, essays after a while, they can sound pretty generic or, you know, repetitive. Like, you know, to some extent, I agree. You might have to copy paste, even if you don't copy paste the exact same wording, you might copy paste the structure, the way that you organize it. So it is unavoidable, unless you're like super creative and you have a way, then by all means go for it. But if you're kind of like us, then I guess, you know, to some extent, just make do what you can, but obviously still make it as the highest quality as possible. Yeah.
Great thing about USC though is that you answered these fun personality questions. I really like those because they're like, "What's your favorite food?" I was like, "Tacos." I don't know. I just like tacos, I guess.
Hey, I'll go for it. No, yeah, they would say like, "Oh, where's the dream vacation place? What's your favorite movie or stuff like that." So that was fun. I definitely think it's a special leave. I would say don't overthink those questions. Those are like very simple. It's not gonna make or break your application. So if you say tacos instead of sushi, no one's gonna like give you hate. So yeah, awesome. I guess another thing I want to talk about, and I just want to preface first the fact that we're all from the same high school. We're all going to USC. So our opinions on this specific next question I ask is going to be pretty opinionated based on us. So obviously, if you're watching this and you're not from our district, just understand that it's coming from a certain mindset that we all grew up in. But what I wanted to talk about next was kind of like this idea of competition among students. So as all of you guys kind of know, college apps is kind of like a competition. You're kind of competing to get a certain spot at a specific institution, university, specific program, whatnot. And because of that, it causes a lot of things to happen throughout high school. Pressure for grades, getting good grades, extracurriculars. You start to competition doesn't become more of an academic thing anymore. It starts to become a personal thing to some extent. So I was wondering if all of you guys could touch up, for whatever you feel comfortable explaining with this, what was the competition like for you? Your specific story. Like I know obviously all three of you guys kind of had your own different ways. You guys know each other, but not like tight. So you guys probably all have different stories to tell. So what was your outlook on how the competitiveness of high school was like for you? So Jordan, if you want to start it off.
Yeah. So I've always been since I was way young, I've always been a pretty competitive person, and not necessarily just competitive, but I did always wanted to give my best, give my all, and I did of course want to succeed like anyone else. And so and I've always had the firm belief that competition among peers should help you grow and should help you become better people together. Should help elevate the entire level. And sorry about that. In terms of competition, I actually had a pretty poor experience with this one individual. He's been my friend for over a decade, really, and then I recently found out that he was actually harboring somewhat ill feelings this entire time because of how competitive we were, and to say that competition damaged our relationship is extremely fair, because that's exactly what happened. And of course it's always important to maintain the highest grades and the best extracurriculars. And in high school, I think it's also, at least I didn't realize that it was also important to kind of foster the relationships around you and to make sure that to take a moment away from all the academics and all that, and to actually just hang out with your friends and just kind of relax. Life isn't always about school, because once university is over, then there's no school to go to after that, like grad school and all that, once we achieve our degrees. But yeah, I once again, it's important to just take a moment and just take a pause. And Arcadia has been known, at least I think, for it to be a very competitive place among students, at least, because we're all trying to take 5 APs. I've always used the term AP arms race to describe Arcadia, because everyone's trying to get the most and trying to make their resumes as the best as possible. So it was hard to deal with at first, but I feel that coming out of it, I've become a stronger person, and that I've been able to manage more things, and I've learned more things than I would have if I haven't faced that kind of challenge of competition.
Yeah, awesome. Oscar, I guess if you want to talk about your story with it.
Yeah. So for me, I think a lot of people talk about the Arcadia competitive nature of it, but then for me, I don't know why. I think it was just because I was like, okay, it's this competition thing that's messing with everyone's head. I'm gonna just stay away from that because I didn't want to get a part of any of that. So basically, I just kind of did my own thing, I saw that a lot of my peers were taking AP Bio or something like that, or some really harder classes and stuff like that. But for me, I was AP Bio. I was already taking some other two other was it two other? Or it was my sophomore year, I think. And I didn't want to stress myself out too much. I wanted to make sure that I got good grades in the classes I want to get good grades in. So I didn't take like that class, or like I didn't take some certain classes like A push or something like that, because I really wanted to just like really make me enjoy high school a bit more. In classes that I knew that I could like really probably could like succeed in. For me, I think I made a wise choice because I did succeed in those classes. I've been relatively not. I haven't had the experience of having like that cutthroat nature about, or not cutthroat, but like really competitive like nature of Arcadia. Besides that, I don't know. I think just like making sure that you do what you really like. Like I think that requires a lot like self-discovery. Like you need to figure out what your passion is, because like you can't just be joining some random club just to become the president of it. You know, they're not. You're just not. It's not that helpful to you. I feel like for me, I feel like I was like pretty like passionate about music, so I found myself doing a lot of like music related like clubs. Like, no, I mean inside of school, I did like some clubs outside of school because like I knew that like that there was like some like a lot of people like being involved in clubs. And I wanted some way to make myself like stand out. I don't know. I don't really call it standing out. I would just feel like I didn't want to become part of that competitive nature. So then I did something. I just did something outside of school. I did stuff outside of school to make sure that I wasn't being messed up by that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And then Jeffrey, I guess if you want to talk about this.
Right. So I think, contrary to what some people might believe, I think that the competition specifically in our school and our district stems from within ourselves. I think some people sometimes attribute it to like, oh, you know, Arcadia, like the high school is like so competitive and toxic. I think it's really the students, because the teachers aren't saying like, oh, you're not taking enough AP classes. I think it's us looking and seeing our peers doing so well. Sometimes I would, you know, do something and I'm like, hey, I'm doing pretty well. And then I'd open up like my friend's LinkedIn and then look at his super huge list of accolades and be like, man, I'm not even on his level. And then, what else was I going to say? I feel like it was also I think competition also stems from a knowledge that like we have certain quotas set in our school for like colleges, right? I think all high schools do. It's that like you can't accept more than this number of students from this certain high school, right? So then I think that's what drives a lot of the competition as well, and that like I have to be better than my peers to be able to get into this sort of school. But I would like to put two hands up for what Oscar said, in that, you know, you gotta spend time to find yourself and find what you really love. Because I feel that if you join the competition, like I tried to do for a lot of my high school career, admittedly, you don't like, you spend so much time studying and doing whatever else that you don't really spend the time to find out things that you might be interested in. For example, for me, it was card magic. And I find that for a lot of the people that I know that are viewed as not as academically competitive, they have the most unique hobbies and other things like that. For example, one person was into like pro skating, but with like the fingerboards thingy.
Oh.
And then another dude was like a SoundCloud rapper, and he later became Lil Pump. No, I'm kidding. But like, yeah, he was a SoundCloud rapper. You know, they sort of have the time to find out the things that they really love. And I think that will better suit them, you know, finding the things that they really love that they want to do for the rest of life, rather than studying their butt.
Yeah, like I definitely want to, like, let's say like you said, like first example, Jeffrey said card magic. So let's say you're a guy that's really into magic and stuff like that. Well, if you're really passionate about that, like you don't have to follow like the other Arcadia kids or like other kind of kids if they're doing like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of Arcadia kids do like a lot of like STEM research stuff, and like at one point, if everyone's doing research, it's not a distinguishable trait at that point. So it's like what you could do with magic is like, and you can get onto like America's Got Talent or something like that, or like maybe like you take that magic and you start like a charity, like take that trait about yourself and like take it to the next level, like do something that's really distinguishable, and I think colleges will love you about that. You know, they're gonna see you like, let's say like, I don't know, it's like research, like it's like really basic research, like that's not going to be really distinguishable compared to like if you take magic to another level. So
yeah, no, I definitely think you guys have a lot of great points. I just want to like touch up on a few things. So, for example, I agree with what Jeffrey said. I don't think the competitiveness of Arcadia came from teachers per se. It definitely came from students. And I don't want to say it's like here's the thing. At USC, and this will happen to you guys, I guarantee you guys when you start talking to other students. But when I told kids at USC that I was from Arcadia, you know what's the first thing they told me? They said, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like they told me, they still said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and I was like, "Huh?" And they're like saying, "Oh, isn't your school like one of the most cutthroat public schools?" And this was a kid from Palo Alto, from NorCal, and there was also another kid who told me that who was from Arizona. So the fact that I had two kids that weren't even remotely like close to the Southern California area was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like, do you know how scary that? Like, that's kind of scary to think about first. And then another thing they would say was like, kind of like I think a lot of Arcadia think to all the too. They said, "Oh, you're from like Arcadia, right?" And you know, here's the thing. The thing. Let's be real here. San Gabriel Valley is very is a high Asian American population. And Arcadia having I don't know what specifically it is. It's like 60 to 70% Asian probably. I would say I'm just gonna take a guess on that number. And in addition to that, we have almost 800 to 900 kids in our graduating class. So I definitely think it's a lot from the students. There's just so many students, and then a lot of Asian American expectations and pressures. Let's be real. It's no stranger that there are some Asian American parents that are like, oh, you know, you have to get like straight A's, or you got to do this, this, and this. There is a lot of pressure. It's not something that I even think is a stereotype anymore. It's just like it is a pretty much well-known fact within the community. And you know, that being said, I definitely agree a lot with like what Oscar and Jeffrey were saying that, oh, yeah, you know, there are other things that you'd be passionate about. For Jeffrey was like magic. If you take that magic, put it to another level, that's definitely going to make you stand out. I agree that, you know, a lot of kids in our school were very, very focused. They're like, oh, let's do the same volunteering program to help kids in this way, or let's do the same, like you said, research, do this, blah, blah, blah. It becomes very generic where it almost sounds like these things that would sound like as highly praised in other schools is almost the norm for our respective school district. And that being said, I think, you know, just branch out. If you have an artistic and creative side, go for it. Like Oscar, you mentioned yours, or I mean, both Jordan and Oscar, actually, you guys both were in music as well too, band and orchestra, respectively. You know, if you have a creative outlet, even though you guys are going into STEM, you know, arts is still another thing you need to pursue too. I guess for me, you know, one little known fact is that I was really into photography and editing it. Not many people actually see the photos that I edit and stuff, but it was like kind of a side hobby I had in addition to, you know, everything else I was doing. So yeah, I definitely agree. You know, there's a lot that can be said about it, and obviously it's very different among the individual. But you know, going back to what Jordan said, if you do go into that competitive environment, you know, just it should be something that should help everyone succeed, like almost like a cooperativity to some extent. And you know, in addition to that, you don't want to lose friends because of just trying to get an A in the class or just trying to get an officer position. I don't think it's worth it. I would rather value a long-term friendship than just a temporary position on like, you know, a team or something. So, you know, that being said, I guess just to kind of wrap up this entire video. So I guess if you guys could give general advice to prospective college students, so either high school senior or just anyone in high school, about like, you know, the college application process or just life in general, because I know you guys can't really give much college advice. You haven't really experienced it yet. And freshman year is going to be online. So much we can say about that. But if you guys have any advice for high school students, you know, if they only watch this part of the video, what would you want them to know?
Well, this might be a little bit linking on towards the previous question on competition, but like just don't get swept too much into trying to create the perfect resume. It's time. I think on my my Facebook bio, I think it says time flies faster than a turtle in an airplane, and I don't know. I just didn't even think of any meaning behind that, but that just helps emphasize every single time I look at it, how fast time is going to go by. Like if I think back, 4 years ago, or even all the way back towards middle school, it felt like yesterday. And of course, I didn't believe anyone who told me at the time when I was in middle school or incoming freshman in high school. I realize it now that what they were saying was exactly right. So I wish instead of getting swept up and caught up in all the competition, I took a moment to kind of just live life, you know, be myself, be my own person. But and as of now, I feel like that I'm feeling some of like the consequences in that, like I don't really know if pursuing medicine is right for me, and I don't know if the path I'm going on is the best for me, and so I guess I just have to wait and see how USC has to offer. But yeah, that would be my main takeaway. Just be yourself. Don't get caught up because time flies quickly.
Yeah, and I'll just say, Jordan, just from speaking from personal experience, I thought I was going to go into med school too. Completely changed that. I'm going to research now, doing a PhD. So I think you'll be fine, regardless of what's changed. I know, yeah, I definitely can agree. There were some consequences of not being myself as much, or like falling into these kind of traps that we had in high school. But it's a new start. College is a new, it's a new chapter. It's a new book. So I definitely think that there's a lot that can be said going forward. So yeah, and Oscar, I guess your advice for students.
I guess just try to do something that's really fulfilling, I guess, or like that you can find passion in, and then you're able to like find something that you're also able to like basically tie into a specific major that you want to do. Like thinking back to the magic trick example, I don't know. I guess the magic trick example, I guess you could try. You probably want to try to tie that into your major also, like the specific major in college. Like I guess besides finding something like artistically passionate or something like passionate about artistically, you got to make sure to do something like academically kind of like passionate, or like there's something you're passionate about. I know for a lot of people it's hard. It's like school. Some people are like, school. But it's like I don't know, like I wish I could have a lot more self-discovery. Like for me, I think although I like science and all, like math, I feel like English, if I was really good at English, I feel like I could have like maybe majored in English or something like that. If I wasn't really good at it. Honestly, I'm not very good at it, but I just like analyzing stuff because I find it really interesting about like what an author has to say about like, I don't know, like a novel or like a poem or like a critique or something. Yeah. But make sure you like you take like you find something or academically like kind of like you like really like it or you're really passionate about, take that to another level, but also maybe like bounce that out with like something like artistically or like creatively to help you like establish your personality and like what you're also interested in terms of like hobbies, I guess.
Yeah, and I just think the temporary add-on to that, I think it's true. You're gonna have like artistic sides, or just things you want to do just for the sake of having fun, or because you actually enjoy like volunteering. I definitely think do that as well too. But if you're a student who does have an academic, like if you're kind of confused in high school, you're thinking of going undeclared, then yeah, just kind of explore your options. But if you want to go into medicine or you want to go into like business, do something towards that field or something that can maybe combine the two. I know maybe Jeffrey can maybe find us an example of relating magic to something. But for example, I guess if we could take music, what Jordan, Oscar, you've done in high school. There's a lot of programs that will do like medicinal, like music, like musical therapy and stuff like that. Like there are programs even at USC where they will play music for people in hospitals, kind of like it's because it's nice and therapeutic, kind of like that. So that's an example of like combining some of your interests with also your academic focus. So if you have the ability to do that, trust me, I believe that it's going to not only make you more interested in the field that you're going to, but it's something that you've already been passionate about, so you're going to enjoy doing it even more. And Jeffrey, if you have an idea, example for magic that you can somehow relate to, that'd be great to hear. But yeah, I guess going to you, Jeffrey, what's your general advice for people and stuff?
Yeah, for me, well, on your sort of thing about like an example with the card magic, I feel that in my field of communications, I think it just happened to line up where I do like card magic, and I do know that card magic can be a way to communicate with people. So I think that will help me network, or that will help me do whatever in the future, helping me, go up while doing something I really enjoy. So I guess that just sort of works out. But I think it's pretty symbolic when Christian asked all of us and for our last bits of advice, and we haven't really mentioned college, like the college admissions process. We've been more talking about life advice and competition. So I think that sort of puts into perspective how, that college admissions is just like a step on the path of life. It's not like the end goal. And I'd sort of like to expand on sort of reiterate what Jordan was saying about competition, in that I think this might be the nihilist in me talking, but I think life's too short, and it's too short to get, and it's like it's way too big. The world is way too big for you to try to like get into the competition and be like, if I can do this thing, I will go down in the history books, something like that. So I think my best advice is best said through one of my favorite comedians, Conan O'Brien, who said, work hard, be kind, and amazing things will happen.
Yeah, I know. And I think I like how you pointed that out. You know, it's very different among students what their last bits of advice is. And I really like how all of you guys, even though you guys haven't been through college yet, and it's not going to be the normal experience, I guess, for, you know, your freshman year. I really like how, yeah, like Jeffrey mentioned, none of you guys really talked about the aspects of college application, like how to write an essay or like how to like time manage or anything like that. All of you guys were focused on like more of like, yeah, general life advice, you know, maintaining those relationships with friends, finding your overall passion, because inevitably, like Jeffrey said, life is going to be short, but you're going to end up caring more about what you're passionate about, because that's what's going to happen long term. This college application process, like Jeffrey mentioned again, it's just a stepping stone. It's not really something that's going to be a very long term thing. Like, heck, yeah, even if you didn't get into college you want, you could always transfer, and then that will probably still help you out in the long term. This is just one step, and it's, you know, seen as the conventional standard step for everyone. But I really like how all you guys have advice that not pertaining to specifically that, or you guys didn't say like, oh, you guys need to really study hard, you know, get the 1600 SAT score, or I mean, I don't know how SAT or test score is going to work out nowadays, but yeah, it's really, you know, it's nice to know that that's not the not the focus of what we're trying to put here. I think it's very important, especially coming from all four of us. I know it's weird. It's like you have 4 Asian kids from the same school going to the same university, but I think it just goes to show that when all of us have been put in like kind of a academically competitive, even almost like extracurricular competitive environment, that at least all of us have this general shift in the rhetoric of like, oh, yeah, academics and that was one thing, but I think looking at all the other personal factors, you know, how did I maintain my relationships with friends and stuff like that, that does become an important aspect. So I'm really glad that you guys mentioned it. And yeah, I guess, you know, obviously I want to thank all 3 of you guys so much for doing this with me. I know obviously the year didn't end the way expected for you guys, but and I know next year won't be it won't be the best either being online, but I just want to say that I'm excited to see all of you guys at USC. I know you guys are all going to be successful no matter what you guys choose to do. And yeah, I guess thank you so much for doing this talk with me.